I'm RJ Nestor, productivity coach and Tana ambassador, and in this video I'm going to share with you how to use super tags in Tana. So first of all, tags in Tana define a type. If you tag something book or task or day, you are marking them as of that type. And there is a critical difference here between the way tags work in Tana versus the way they work in, say, Roam or Logseek. Tags are not interchangeable with page references the way they are for the most part in those tools, especially Roam. Tags in Tana mark things definitively as a type and come along with their own functionality that we'll explore in the rest of this video. It does not function, it does not create a page called book where everything is referenced, but rather marks those things as of type book and gives you a lot of particular power then within live searches and to connect different information to every book that is in your system. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. First thing to note, tags create an is-a relationship. So if Gulliver's Travel is a book, then Gulliver's Travels book. It's tagged book. If create exercises for Tana Jumpstart is a task, then create exercises for Tana Jumpstart should be tagged task. So that's how that works. It creates the is-a relationship. And if you think of, let's do one more book here, just for the sake of it. Let's say From Here to Eternity is a book. So if I tag it book, now I have denoted that that is a book. And you saw how I did that there. You can create or reuse existing tags by typing the hashtag. So if I want to, I have a couple here from a previous demo. If I want to create this tag called project, all I have to do is well, I'm not creating them. It's a tag that's already there. All I have to do is hit hashtag and choose it. But if I want to create a new one, I can do exactly the same thing. If I want to create a tag called bin, for instance, all I have to do is type that, and it'll give me the option of creating a new tag called bin. And then I can do it, and you can see it functions the same way as when I chose a pre-existing one, like when I chose the project there. So you can create them with that. And then, of course, the cursor stays right here, and you can type what your project is or what the relevant bin is. And worth noting, you can do that after the fact as well. So if I say tame the feral bear, a huge project around here. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. I can tag that project after I've typed that. And I don't even have to, you saw I had the cursor at the end. You don't have to add a space. You don't have to do anything. The cursor doesn't have to be at the end. It can be anywhere. Cursor can be here between the A and the M of tame. And I type project, and it'll tag it correctly. So anywhere you are, you can create a new tag, or you can reuse an existing one by typing the hashtag and then the name of the tag. You can access tag configuration by clicking the tag and choosing configure. Well, choosing the wrench that denotes configure. So if I click on project, it'll take me to this, and this is a fairly new screen. This is a screen where you can work with super tags in a sort of a table format. We're going to talk right now about clicking this little wrench, which will take us to configuration view. Let's just change the color if we say want projects to be orange instead. If we want to add some information to the template, which we're going to do here in a moment for a couple of things, or if we want to do, there's some other stuff down here that I won't get into in this fundamentals video, but that will give you an idea. This is how you get to the configuration. So I'm going to use the back arrow here to get back to where I was. But again, so if I want to go to the configuration of bin, click on that, configure with this little wrench here, and then you have all of this options here of things that you can add to that. So that's how you can access the configuration. Now, speaking of the configuration and that template area, you've heard the term super tag. So far in this video, other than introducing the concept, I've called everything tags. And I did that because until you've added something to the template, technically in Tana, the term is tag. Once something is in the template, it is now a super tag because it gets superpowers when you add things to the templates of a tag. Now, making that distinction is useful, but for most folks, we just sort of blur the line and call them super tags all the time. But do note there is a distinction there, and it's worth making the distinction, even though sometimes I forget. But tags become super tags when there is content in their template. So in other words, if every book has an author, or at least most books have an author, then the field author should be included in the book super tag template. So in other words, when I did my fields video, I showed that you could attach a field just to a node, and that you certainly can. So I could have every single book in my system just doesn't have to have a tag. I could just put an author field on it and put who the author is. But that's not a particularly useful way of categorizing all of my books. Better would be to say use the is-a relationship of a tag to tag them books. And then because every book has an author, better to have that has-a relationship, book has an author, laid into the super tag so that anytime I tag something book, author comes up as an option. So that's as I say here, just like with nodes, fields and super tags imply a has-a relationship. So each book has an author, which means the template of the super tag book should include, to configuration, the author field. You can see right here, I have the author field inside the super tag. And I'll just, for example, add it here. I'll remove it and add it back, just for the sake of it. I use the same greater than I would for anywhere else. And then I bring in the author field, which I'll create a new one here. So now we have book, and we have every book has an author. Okay? So with that, if I go back now, that means that super tags imply this overall relationship here. Okay? And I'll add this here in a second. Super tags imply this relationship. Node is a super tag, so that's our is-a. Each super tag has a field, that's our field has a relationship. And the field for this particular node is field value, which all sounds like gobbledygook when I say it with the template information there. But if you hear it this way, from here to eternity is a book. Each book has an author, and the author for From Here to Eternity is James Jones, would be laid out like this. So the book is From Here to Eternity. It is a book, so hashtag book. Because each book has an author, that's already included once I add the super tag book, and the author From Here to Eternity is James Jones. And so that now is our way of encoding that. We could also say, just because I added this one earlier, I'm going to delete it here. I could also say, War and Remembrance is a book. Is a book. Each book has an author, and the author for War and Remembrance is Herman Wouk. And so that's the relationship that I've established as I do this, and that's how that breaks down. So just a couple of quick exercises to kind of show you the general idea here. I'm going to command click on the node next to exercises to open it to the right side here. Now these exercises are designed for my Tana Jumpstart, so you don't. I'm not going to do all of them or anything, but just to kind of give you an idea here. So if we want to create super tags, we know we have them for task and bin and project and book. I already did that. Let's create one for note. Remember, just hashtag note and hit the command enter or control enter on Windows. Hashtag event, command enter. And we've created them. Now we can do whatever we want with them. We've got that. And let's say here, add fields to super tags. We won't worry about those. Let's use the note and event here. So let's say that note has a date. And I'm going to use here just my own created date field. There is a system date field, but since right now we're not worried yet about field types here in our basic understanding, I'm just going to keep it simple. URL is actually a URL field type as well, but we'll keep that one simple as well. We'll say additional context. so a note could have additional context. And to be clear, I'm not saying this is how a note should be set up in Tana necessarily. I'm just saying that this is how you would add fields to the supertag note so that all notes would come along with those fields attached. So that's how you could do that. Let's say an event, we can add scheduled on. So this would probably be a date field in reality, but we'll just call it. Well, it looks like I already have one there in tasks, so we can reuse that. Perfect. And then location. We'll create a new one there for that. And now we've got some super tags that have some fields in them that we would be able to say, if I had a note here, I could type random note. And then I'd be able to say what date I had that note and what URL was attached to that note, and what additional context, if any, were related to that note. Again, not my way of saying do a note this way, but just to show you how the fields can be in the super tags and create those is-a, has-a interacting relationships. So that's how this works. I would do the exercises in more detail if we were doing them in our Tana Jumpstart. But this gives you an idea of how supertags function in Tana, and hopefully that will be valuable for you as you go forward using the tool. If that was helpful and you'd like to learn more Tana basics and more next level Tana skills, consider joining my upcoming Tana Jumpstart. I do these every month or two, and I'd love to have you join the next one. We focus on fundamentals. We drill them. It isn't just me lecturing. Then we look at the next level skills, how some of those basics fit together and how they augment one another and how you can use those. Again, we'll drill that. We'll talk about common Tana challenges and some ways to overcome them. And then we'll look at your specific needs and how we can tune Tana to those needs. It is 7 hours in one weekend. It is a jump start. You invest that time in the weekend, 4 sessions, and we will then have you hit the ground running when you go back into your Tana workspace that Monday. So if you're interested in that, if that's something to be useful for you, the link is here. There's a little bit more information on the page where that link is. I'd love to have you join that next Tana Jump Start.